Higher education and training institutions, including universities, have seen an influx of students hoping to register for their first academic year. Now, due to the limited space, as demand increases and the lack of financial support, thousands have been left disappointed. Announcing the state of readiness for the 2024 higher academic year recently, the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Professor Blade Nzimande, said that the department has developed a monitoring tool to assess, amongst other priority matters, the registration of students, the status of institutional finances, challenges, and plans for funding new and returning students. But how capable is our higher education system in providing the necessary support for students? Well, let's have this conversation. And joining us, we've got Vezinhlanhla Simelane, who is the president of the South African Students' Congress, or SASCO, to talk to us about this. Vezinhlanhla, thank you very, very much for joining us here on the program.
Good morning to you, and good morning to our viewers at home.
So,
thank you very much for having us.
It's an absolute pleasure. So when we saw the matric results coming out, more than 500,000 students passed their 2023 matric exams, with 40.9% achieving a bachelor pass. So 27.2% achieved a diploma pass, and 14.8% achieved a higher certificate pass. What's been your experiences on the ground with students who have been rejected due to the lack of space and over applications?
No, thanks once again. I think it's an odd call that SASCO has been making over the past 32 years since its inception, that we need to expand higher education, we need to build more universities, we need to build more TVET colleges, but also on TVET colleges, we must ensure that TVET colleges, they do not become a dumping site, but they become institutions of choice. So we have said these things for many years. I think we are asking our government to pay attention to infrastructural development, but in terms of universities and, of course, TVET colleges. But also TVET colleges are important. We need to ensure that from at all levels, TVET colleges, they don't become dumping sites, as I've said, but they become institutions of choice. What we have seen across campuses is the influx of students who have been on campuses. So, and there's that challenge that we're having. There's a difficulty in terms of access because spaces are limited. Some of the universities, actually, majority of them are not accepting late applications and so on. But what we have seen is that outside gates, they don't even allow students to get inside to at least get protected from the sun and all of those things. So indeed, there is a challenge, and a number of students, there's a possibility that they might go back home without registering. And that is serious concern to us as an organization. And we're also calling upon our society to also at least put pressure on our government to ensure that we start the process of building. Even if you don't build, there are existing buildings that are owned by public works in South Africa. You convert those buildings to at least to expand for universities, to expand for TVET colleges, because we know very well that building from the scratch, it can take you so many years, even the challenges that we have in South Africa. So at least if we can convert even existing buildings to accommodate our students so that we can be able to study. But of course, also what is important is that you don't just expand and build and accommodate and put useless courses, because one of the major challenges we're having in South Africa is the unemployment of graduates. So as much as we want to build and expand, we need to ensure that we put relevant courses so that at the end of the day, our students are able to get access to employment and so on.
So obviously a solution was given. Back in 2022, the same minister that we have now, had said that, there was a feasibility study underway to build 2 more institutions in South Africa, universities in South Africa. I think about 16 TVET colleges to be added and also renovated. That was in 2022. Where are we? Do you have any idea if the government has? Because I know you mentioned it in your answer that perhaps adding more institutions is the solution for the limited space. Have you heard anything with regard to that?
I remember what you were talking about. I think one of the universities was meant to be built in Eburuleni. And in terms of what government has said in the previous years was that they were able to get land and they were working in the municipality in ensuring that they build that particular university. But as things stand now, I don't think there's something that is positive in terms of what they talked about. From where I was sitting, it's just an idea in terms of what they wanted to achieve. It was a good idea. I think one of the major challenges we have is that most of the time we speak, but when it's come to putting things into practice, we take time, we delay for no reason, we don't know. I think one of the things that government must be able to understand is that the question of building more universities is an urgent question. We can't at all material times during this period of the year, every January, when the results are released, we begin to speak about building more of universities and TVET colleges. Yeah. It must be a continuous program. You know, we're speaking about even today because we see that there's a crisis on our campuses. I'm telling you, after this period, there'll be less of a conversation in relation to infrastructure development in South Africa. That is why we're saying all these ministers who are responsible for this infrastructure development, we must be able to pay attention, because the failure to do so, we're going to produce many unskilled youth that will be involved in drugs, that will be involved in criminal acts and all of those things. And that will also provide some of the challenges that we're having in South Africa. Yeah. So that is why it's important that we pay more attention to this challenge so that we can be able to deal with these social challenges that we're having in South Africa.
Indeed, and to continue talking about them, as you say, not, just get the calendar underway and then forget about it. But, you are correct in saying that those universities, the one was the new University of Science and Innovation that was set to be built in Ekurhuleni, and then a new crime detection university in Hammanskraal. So we need to follow up on those as well and see where we're at. I wanted to talk now in terms of financing, because one of the big stories was the government saying that it had set aside a 3.8 billion rand initial capitalization fund. And this was to support the missing middle students. I mean, this is a category of students that come from families who have a total income of more than 350,000 rand, but not more than 600,000 rand per annum. Is this, obviously it is a step in the right direction, but how do you feel, firstly, that it will be managed? Because we'll get to NSFAS, they're going to manage this as well, and how they have done so far. And do you believe this is the right way to reduce the financial pressures, particularly on this very important group of students?
Thank you very much once again. I think, number one, we must state that as an organization that we as SASCO have been calling for an increase from 350,000 per annum to 600,000 so that we can be able to accommodate the missing needs. One of the reasons why we've been calling for that is because we understand that even the state of our economy, things are expensive and all of those things. So some of the households are unable to fund their kids when it's come to higher education, but also I think we must be able to welcome the intervention that is done by our government in ensuring that there is some kind of a relief, especially for a missing need, from 350,000 to, I think it's 600,000 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so
600,000.
we are welcoming that decision. But I think what is more important, as we are saying, is that the monitoring now of this process, given challenges that NSFAS has had over the years, especially this board that we have now, it has been so many challenges. There are allegations of corruption on media and all of those things. So we as an organization, of course, working with other relevant stakeholders, including yourself as media, I think we must be able to pay attention in terms of the work that is expected to be done by NSFAS. We don't want a situation where people are supposed to benefit from this process and then we are told that there are administrative issues. For instance, for those who qualify for NSFAS, who falls in the category of 350, in the previous year, we had the challenge of students who have not been paid, 20,000 plus. Now in January, we thought that they've been cleared. I think now 50% of them have been cleared. We're speaking about the challenge of 2023. We have students who have done appeals from NSFAS, and I can tell you today, even today, some of them will never receive responses from NSFAS in relation to diabetes.
Yeah.
That also contribute to the challenges that NSFAS has. We're just only speaking about those who are qualifying.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to add a number of students who are supposed to benefit from the loan that NSFAS has said through government going to provide for a missing link. We don't want any kind of administrative challenge like the one that we had in the previous year.
Yeah.
That is why we think that it's important for us, all of us, to pay attention and ensure that we monitor them, we put pressure on them, and our students cannot be affected by any challenge that NSFAS might have.
You're not the first organisation to put your concerns forward about this as well, because, I mean, if we look at the current situation we're sitting in, today is actually the closing date for the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS's bursary application season for the 2024 education year going forward. And this is as there are still outstanding allowances that we sit here looking at from the 2023 academic year. How dire is the situation for these students that are still waiting for this money to be paid, and they're still waiting? Their results can't be released. They're sitting, waiting, and nothing's happening.
You see, as from last year around examination period, those students, they were writing examination without having something to eat, or they rely on NSFAS. The understanding is that anyone who applies for NSFAS, not for a loan that has been approved now, anyone who applies for NSFAS, we have an understanding that those people are coming from poor households. So therefore, NSFAS money is important in a manner that they can be able to buy their sanitary towels, they can be able to buy food, so that they can be able to participate in class, they can be able to pay for their accommodation. Some of them, they wrote examination without having proper meals. Some of them who are staying in private accommodation, they did not pay landlords. Some will receive some of the calls around December when people were going on holidays, that some of the students are unable to change their belongings because landlords are saying, you have not paid us. We can't deal with these belongings because they have not paid us. So can you imagine what trauma these students they experienced in the previous year? Yeah. Now there's a question of registration, as we have said. Some of the universities are saying, for you to be able to register, you must clear your debt.
Indeed.
And that's so now their debts have not been cleared.
So that's what you're hearing. Let me just get a little bit sort of just more from you, because you speak to the students. I mean, we heard that the scheme paid approximately 1.7 billion on the 27th of January to certain institutions. And this is outstanding debt from 2023. So are you still hearing that there are many students that they're still not in a position to get anything, that their fees are still outstanding?
No, there are students who still have that challenge. According to the report that we have from NSFAS, they've managed to settle the debt of more than 50% of 20,000 students that had issues in 2023. But I think one of the fundamental challenges that we must also speak about is that for this, the process of NSFAS, for a student to be cleared, and we must have a university sending what we call data to NSFAS so that NSFAS can be able to process the payment. So as much as NSFAS has its own challenges, but also universities, they are contributing to this factor because some of them have not sent data to NSFAS for NSFAS to be able to pay this debt. But also, NSFAS must not just relax and wait for a university to send the data. They must take an initiative in terms of what is it that is happening in that particular university, why they have not sent the data. So both universities and NSFAS, they need to play a critical role in ensuring that our students don't get frustration, because once they get frustrations, it's going to be difficult even for them to be able to participate in the class. And once they are unable to participate in class, they're going to fail. And once they fail, and it's going to kick them out because they have not performed. They have not checking why all of that, what informs the behavior that students are not able to perform. It's informed by the challenges that both NSFAS and the university has contributed
All
for
right.
that particular student.
Vezinhlanhla, thank you. Thanks for talking to us. Vezinhlanhla Simelane is the president of the South African Students' Congress, SASCO, talking to us about the 2024 Higher Education and Training academic year funding. One of the biggest issues, overcrowding, and also those that just cannot get into these tertiary institutions.